We are live at the Distributed Energy Conference in Golden, Colorado, and we're talking to John Tousley, the Digital Engagement Leader from ABB. And John, welcome to the IoT World Channel.
Oh, thank you.
So can you tell us how are the consumers being engaged in the distributed energy efforts?
Well, that's a good question. You really have to look at it on three different fronts: the residential consumers, the commercial consumers, and the industrial consumers. And I think each of those is being engaged in the whole process in different ways. I think you're seeing a lot of engagement from the commercial properties in the likes of demand response, solar on roofs and things like that. So it's a little bit more passive, but they're engaging. Residential customers are being engaged kind of on a more passive level as well. Where we see the greatest involvement is really in the industrial space. And this is one of the neat things about ABB and ABB Ability is that we don't only help generate, transmit, and distribute power, but we also work in the factories in terms of automating those factories and in terms of making those factories more efficient. And when we can gather energy information about what's happening there and pass that back to the grid, that really starts to facilitate a more interactive use and a more interactive optimization of the grid. And so I think you start with the industrials, very active. You go to the commercials, which are somewhat, I'll say not passive, but they're more reactive. And then the residential is, again, perhaps more passive.
Thank you, John. Let's talk about technology a little bit. And
Sure.
can you talk about how does ABB bring grid and conventional energy together?
Well, that's a great question. This is where ABB Ability really does tie it all together, because what we're doing with ABB Ability is we're wrapping an outer control loop around everything that we touch. So if you're talking about traditional distributed energy resources, a lot of the renewables are basically responding to the wind and the sun. So there's not a lot of proactive work you can do there. That means the rest of the assets have to learn how to flex. And so ABB Ability is looking at the bidirectional power flows that are happening in those with our virtual power plant. And then we take that back to the conventional power plants. Those plants were once built to really be base loaded. And they turned them on and they ran them for a long season and then they shut them down. Today, those plants are swinging. They're peaking. So what was once tuned as turn it on and run it now has to figure out how they can come up and come down, sometimes multiple times a day, in response to the curve. So ABB Ability really helps optimize what's happening at the plant level. It helps optimize what's happening at the distribution level. And then we can take it down even further. When you get to the plant, we can go right down to the individual control loops and really make sure that those are optimized as well. And again, this is very fundamental stuff. But there's a lot of change going on in the marketplace. There's a lot of change in the daily load swings. And being able to use technology to help you get the most out of your plants and buy more time and buy more efficiency is really what ABB and ABB Ability is all about.